Hello viewers. Welcome to Pelican Waters Park here in Caloundra, southeast Queensland, Sunshine Coast, Southern End. And hey, it's a beautiful Wednesday morning. It's about 10 a.m. and you're watching CoffeeChillTV. And folks, today on CoffeeChillTV, I'm going to add to my socio-economic philosophic playlist, and we're going to talk about the worst type of vloggers. Come along with me on CoffeeChillTV. And folks, in terms of inspiration for today's video vlog, I suppose it's a couple of weeks ago now, I read an article in the Australian newspaper, The Australian. I will backfill this video vlog with the details on that. Steve Waterson, just visiting. Why be an intrepid traveller when you can be a tourist? Okay, I'll put the details in the I'll backfill the vlog. Yeah, so the article from the Australian newspaper by a Steve Waterson, if I correctly pronounce that, just visiting. Why be an intrepid traveller when you can be a tourist? Yeah, it's kind of inspired me to make this vlog today. And without digging too deep, the article to me seems to be, a travel journalist grappling with the idea of travelling at one's own expense versus travelling as, a guest of an airline, a hotel resort, a tourism board, and he kind of grapples with that. And I thought, you know what? I'm just a vlogger and no one's ever paid me directly anyway for any of my content, but it got me thinking about some of the vloggers that maybe cross that line, and that's evolved now into we're going to run the list on according to Google, their top 5 worst types of vloggers. All right, let's roll. So folks, excuse the rustling of papers, the ripples on the water, etc. A bit of traffic noise in the background too, but I like to do live to tape narration. I'm going to come back to that point later in today's video. But look, after reading this article and having my morning joe, I decided to type into Google search the worst types of vloggers. And here's the summary according to my search activity this morning. Here goes. The worst vloggers are those who exploit vulnerable subjects for engagement, stage fake acts of charity for views, or rely entirely on rage bait. These types of channels prioritise metrics over ethics, and often have a negative impact on their viewers. Okay, here is the list, 1 to 5. Number 1, exploitative family vloggers. Number 2, rage bait prank channels, followed by fake altruists. Next, invasive public vloggers. And finally, reality distorting lifestyle gurus. Quite the rogues gallery. All right, first cab off the rank. In this top 5 worst types of vloggers, according to Google AI search this morning, we know it changes, exploitative family vloggers. You know, this has been a hot topic for a while. It goes back to reality television. Before, you know, people sort of blurred that line between reality TV and reality TV style vloggers. The term, or the two areas I'm going to focus on are, you know, folks who pimp out their kids and folks who pimp out their parents and grandparents. Let me explain further. So, talking about children, I first discovered the portmanteau advanced action verb sharenting. That was about a couple of years ago. There's this idea that, you know, you get content creators and, you know, they share, you know, the development stories of their children, and a lot of them have kind of built their whole niche, their whole shtick around that. Then I've heard stories of, you know, when these children get a bit older and they go to school, like a relentless bullying of these children. Some of them, you know, dysfunctional. And I suppose it's that old idea that for some of these parents, they are living vicariously through their children. And, you know, the dream, sometimes it's not the kid's dream. You know, maybe parents are pushing, you know, and filming and recording some child's, you know, sporting achievements. But maybe he just wants to play his guitar in his room. You know, whose dream is it? And as I said, you know, the children may grow up to resent you if you're doing that. So yeah, you've got to be a little bit careful with that stuff. And if we go to the other end of the life stage, you know, parents, grandparents, older relatives, uncles and aunties, you know, I've seen videos where, you know, these vloggers have used maybe parents, grandparents, uncles, aunties, who maybe they're not 100% lucid, you know, and they'll film their journey to different locations and this and that, and it's sometimes no harm, no foul, you know. But sometimes I wonder, you know, did those ailing parents or grandparents, did they give full consent? Are they fully aware that they're out there? And some of these channels, you know, they've got big followings. And, you know, you're filming a relative who's, you know, maybe struggling a bit. And, you know, is it a bit embarrassing? And, you know, I don't know about that one, folks. What do you think? You know, a mild example, it was a couple of years ago. And there was this vlogger turned up in my feed, and the title of his thumbnail was, "My grandmother has died." Okay. He's going to make a vlog about that. Now, maybe his heart is in the right place. You know, how close was he really to his grandmother? Maybe extremely close. Maybe not. There's a thing called recreational grief. You know, it's kind of, people participate in it. And I never watched the video, so I don't know. And I'm not going to name any specific vloggers today. I'm not going to do that. It's not how we roll on CoffeeChillTV. But I never watched the video, so I can't know. But just the thumbnail had me concerned a little bit. You know, are you using the death of a family member for content and clicks? Who knows? The next one on the list, rage bait prank channels. Now, there's been a lot of stuff about this, a lot of pushback, a lot of backlash. You know, people at the airport, you know, pushing in line and their friends videoing you doing it, and, you know, you're looking for the reaction. Sometimes these pranksters, they get their comeuppance. I saw a video a couple of years ago. I don't know if the video was real or fake, but in the video, a young guy and his mate's filming him, and he takes the hat off an older guy at the gym. And yeah, he gets floored by the older guy. Now, I don't advocate violence, but if that story was true, well, you know, actions have consequences, don't they? Showing my age here, but, you know, in the 70s, and through to the 80s, you know, Candid Camera. It was a big show. It was very popular in Australia. I never liked that show, even when I was like just a juvenile watching it, and the humour is kind of juvenile on that old show. I just never liked it because I always thought they were wasting people's time. Someone's going about their business and you're wasting their time. You know, you get those crank calls on radio stations as well, and you know, and people do this now on YouTube and Rumble and TikTok, and you know, you're disrupting people's everyday lives, and you know, the humour's a bit flat, and in a worst case scenario, you kind of humiliate people with these pranks. I'm not a fan. How about you? Okay, the next one, guys, is the fake altruist vlogger. Oh, you see them all over social media. The phony white knight, the saviours, you know, people, places, animals, you know, the virtue signalling is off the chart. Now, guys, a random act of kindness, one that's unplanned, I'm all for that. You know, in some of my night market videos, you'll see me slip a couple of dollars to a musician, you know, giving money to a busker, and that's caught up in the vlog, but that's not what the vlog's about. It's just kind of incidental. There are some vloggers out there, their whole genre revolves around going out and doing these not so random acts of kindness, you know, and yeah, a lot of it's disingenuous, I suspect. Okay guys, next one. Invasive public vloggers. Yeah, you know, I film in the public square. I recently made a video about that and the ethics of it. And I made the point in that video that I try not to be invasive, not to stop people from going about their everyday business. You know, not blocking the road, not blocking the footpath, not getting in the way of someone who's trying to do business, you know. I try to be respectful when I'm filming in the public square, and not deliberately going for those gotcha moments, which I think are disingenuous and disrespectful. Alright, so number 5 on the Google list. I'm going to add some extra examples at the tail end of this video, but just to wrap up the Google search. Number 5, last but not least, reality distorting lifestyle gurus. Now, one of my favourite cliches is that when the tide goes out, we see who was swimming with their trunks off. And what does that cliche mean? Well, folks, I'm a retired finance nerd, and look, there's so many fake lifestyle gurus out there, you know. The person who lives this, you know, highly moral family lifestyle, and then you find out there's all kinds of infidelity happening. I'm not going to worry about those. Those have been well documented. I'll just talk about finance. When we had the global financial crisis, GFC, 2007-2008, I heard this cliche used by a fund manager. I think I was at a fund manager breakfast. Wild, crazy times. But he pulled out the cliche, and he was basically making the point that, you know, in the lead up to the global financial crisis, there was a bull run on shares, stocks, and everybody looked like a genius and people were making money. But when things got tough, you know, we found out who really were the skillful fund managers and those that were just kind of masquerading as such. You know, and in present day, in the world of online content creation, You know, there are a lot of people who, you know, they show off this lifestyle, you know, big mansions, waterfront mansions, as we have here at Pelican Waters, big cars and boats and yachts and stuff. And, you know, sometimes you find that that house was built on a house of cards, and sometimes the house was rented. They didn't even own it. They're fake wealth, you know, so their luxurious lifestyle, well, it's not exactly authentic. Okay, folks, so just as we come down to the last sort of section of today's video, you know, just I did one other little search and came across, and I'll backfill the video with the reference to this website. But yeah, they had you know, they had a list of kind of rogues gallery vloggers as well. Let me add their little list as well. I'm going to focus just on one. And the one I'm going to focus on, as I said, I will put details of this. I'll put a web link somewhere in there. The one I'm just going to focus on from this supplementary search was the AI YouTuber, Artificial Intelligence. Now, you might be thinking, well, didn't this guy use Google AI search results for, you know, some of the meat and the pie for today's video? Yes, I did. But this is not robo voice, guys. This is me live to tape. These are my perspectives and angles, basically doing a literature review on that. As opposed to those vloggers, you know, you don't know if it's real. When does the robo voice stop? When does the auto dub stop? You know, who filmed this? Is it stolen footage? And, you know, I've had footage stolen from my channel. You know, thumbnails. Some vloggers, every single thumbnail is AI generated. Some of them quite clever. I don't do that at this stage. Now, who knows in the future, but I suppose it's that frustration, guys, where you don't know, is it real? Is it not real? I get a bit fatigued by it, and, you know, yeah, and a bit repulsed by those vloggers who steal the photography and videography of others and then, you know, mash it up and call it their own, you know. Don't like it. So, yeah, AI, it's here to be used, but, yeah, where's the line? It's a tough one. You know, so I was talking before about people stealing footage. Yeah, I did a video in 2024, Songkran in Udon, and I only found out a week ago that someone had taken some of my footage and put it into a vlog for themselves. And I know this person was not in the location. Stole my footage, and I wonder if he stole other people's footage. So these are kind of burglar vloggers. You know, you'd put them in the same neighborhood as the plagiarist vloggers. I did a video many years ago. I went to a breakfast restaurant, and I ordered a certain breakfast. I sat in a certain seat. I uploaded it, and 2 days later some other vlogger ordered the same breakfast, sat in the same seat at that restaurant. There's a fine line between inspiration and plagiarism. Okay, guys, and look, you know, I want to talk about conflicted vloggers. Commercially conflicted, morally conflicted, electronic begging, e-beggars. You know, that summary at the start of this video, where it was more about metrics than it was about morals. And that's true. You know, a lot of the electronic beggars out there, a lot of them are quite well to do. They're well funded through their own, you know, income that they make from social media, their investments. Some of them, it's the bank of mum and dad. You know, I'm not worried about the source of their wealth and income. What I'm worried about is the fact that they are asking people, you know, who have nowhere near their level of affluence to send them money. And what are they sending money for? Is it that special? So yeah, the e-beggar vlogger, Now, I'm not talking about vloggers who add some value. I'm not talking about people who sell memberships and merchandise and provide some kind of value add. That's different. I'm talking about the out and out guys to help me with the continued expense of the channel. Send me money. Buy me a donut. You know, buy me a beer, buy me a coffee, buy me a taco I saw recently. Look, when I give money to those buskers, they're playing music. They're having a go. If you want me to send you money, do something that adds value. Don't just ask me money because you're crying poor. A lot of the time, they're crying poor, but they're quite well-to-do. More well-to-do than their viewers in many cases. And if we go beyond e-begging, you've got these sponsorships and endorsements. And this circles back to the original article. The guy said, you know, when I travel at my own expense versus when I travel sponsored as a guest. I'll see vloggers and, you know, they'll have all kinds of products and services that they endorse, and there are referral partners. I'm a capitalist, that's fine. Just as long as it doesn't affect your impartiality, if it's relevant to your, you know, your lane, your shtick, your genre. To build on that, the example I know, a few years ago, there was allegations of a vlogger who had equity in several bars and restaurants, and then he went out and did 5-star vlogs on restaurants and bars that he had equity in. And it may not be you guys, it might be your brother-in-law, whatever. But, you know, are you commercially conflicted? You know, if there's full disclosure, that's fine. But maybe don't pass yourself off as independent if you're not. You know, and what about being morally conflicted? I actually spoke years ago now to a lady who owned a restaurant here in Australia. I won't say exactly where, but she had like a smorgasbord there, and she told me that she was persistently getting requests from these so-called social influencers and food and travel vloggers saying, hey, let us have a crack at the smorgasbord for free, and then I'll do some positive content for you. Yeah, you know, that's grifting, in my opinion, and it's hardly authentic, is it? And guys, you know, some final thoughts. No one's perfect. Have I ever engaged in activity when I'm out filming that would be subject to valid criticism? Probably. But for me, intent isn't perfect. I never intentionally set out to disrupt others when I'm making my videos. Okay, folks, let's circle back to that top 5 list, according to Google search, of the worst vloggers. As I run the tape, hey, which one of these do you reckon is the worst of the worst in the rogues gallery? Do you think some of them unfairly on the list? Don't be afraid to add your comments. All right, here we go. Number 1, exploitive family vloggers. Number 2, rage bait prank channels, followed by fake altruists. Next up, invasive public vloggers. And finally, reality distorting lifestyle gurus. There you go, guys. There's the so-called rogues gallery. What do you reckon about that list? Voila. And folks, what do you reckon about this video? Give it a like, a share, a subscribe if you enjoyed it. Don't be afraid to put a positive comment in there. It's a contentious kind of subject matter expert. And either way, guys, thank you for making it to the end of the video. Cheers for watching, and we'll see you again soon on CoffeeChillTV. All the best.